Let's talk about Rezz, because Rezz released Spiral. It is 11 songs, 35 minutes long. Definitely one of our more favorite electronic artists on the podcast, especially Dan really likes Rezz. Introduced me to Rezz. So also did hear him from Mousetrap Records as well, because Dead Mouse is one of my favorites. So anyways, going into the record. I'm actually, it's been a minute too, actually. Side note. Was the last Rezz album was 2018, maybe?
We reviewed certain kind of pretty much. Yeah, Certain Kind of Magic. I want to say we did something on Mass Manipulation because that came out in 2017 as well. Maybe it was a music recommendation of mine.
We definitely talked about Mass Manipulation because that's one of the first times I really listened to it was because of the podcast. Because I remember hearing her on Mousetrap Records and stuff, seeing Dead Mouse sign her. I was like, well, that's interesting. And because I think her and Feed Me were signed around the same time, and I talked about Feed Me as well. But Rezz definitely has been putting out bangers pretty much ever since. Taking her time with certain stuff.
Yeah. One good thing as well that we, in general, it sucks because we don't get to, for many reasons we've described, and maybe we'll just quickly go through them here. We don't get to review a lot of electronic albums on Audioface for some of the reasons we're about to state, although this isn't a conclusive list. Rarely do electronic DJs that are really popular release full out like records.
It's not often.
Oftentimes when they do, they're flaming hot garbage. Or it's like white DJs trying to speak Spanish. More or less, it's just like projects that in a given week when we have, that or 4 or 5 other things to do, we narrow it down and you get the episodes you get. And I think people are happy about that. But, and we've also talked about a little bit this year about more awareness being made about the discrepancy between men and women in the electronic music space as far as DJs go. And a lot of artists who are kind of fighting against that. And it's not that Rezz necessarily fighting against that, just that she is a great DJ that people really like, who has a unique sound that doesn't like, some could say maybe sounds repetitive, but I would argue that she's been continually updating and changing her sound, especially as she works with other collaborators. And overall, I think that's what makes like Rezz really interesting to review in the context of reviewing albums.
Yes, I agree, especially because her records are pretty short. They're usually only a few songs long. This one's again only 35 minutes for 11 songs, and there are definitely different sounds. The first 2 tracks are definitely like pretty wubsy rezzy, as I like to say, where it's like you get that solid bass wub and stuff in there, which I don't mind. I've grown to like it after time. For a while, it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, but then more understandings of festivals and stuff that I went to, and you could see it more performed live and to hear it, I could understand more and then gain appreciation for it. I mean, that's one thing I do really like about the podcast. To me, that track I really like is the third one of Levitate. I thought that was done very well because it's combining like almost like a taiko-ish sound towards the middle, like a really chill electronic song with the more craziness of a Rezz track. So you're combining 2 different sounds. I really haven't really heard that before, of trying to mess with the track like that, but obviously make it your own, so you're not just
yeah, I do appreciate that sort of variation because you get Chemical Bond with Deathpack, who Rezz has collaborated with recently, and Let Me In, which these are good progression songs, but they still sound like very kind of tried and true Rezz tracks even. But yeah, Levitate is definitely sort of like that push to something a little bit newer. And then Sacrificial, which is just sort of super blown up, has been, I think that's a really good track that like fits within sort of general EDM. You have like a female vocalist sing in the beginning and then a drop afterwards, but it's done in Rezz's way, which continues to be fresh for the genre and then fresh for what Rezz is doing, and just fits as like one of those like EDM pop sounding songs that just hits really nicely.
Yes. There's some stuff I like. There's some stuff that I thought was okay. Like, example, towards the middle, Sacrificial and Paper Walls, I thought were okay. They're kind of like your more standard EDM songs, naturally of it. After they get spun, which I like more, actually, because it's like the way she messes with electronics on there. And it sounds a little bit different because of the way she's making. I don't know exactly what electronics that she's using per se, but the way she's almost blending them into like a web, and it's like feeling like you're getting pulled with the web in the middle of this track. I don't. It's my best way to explain it. I really like the way it does that effect.
I think that's like really. I think partially it's intentional because it's like Rezz is a really smart DJ, and like spiral spun web spiders, all very much within her like motifs that she does. But yeah, it's what she gets like a really kind of, like a throwback to dubstep kind of track, but done with like a drum and bass Rezzy kind of flair to it. And I think that's really nice. That production effect where it's going through different types of wubs, if you will, if I can even describe it that way. I think it's really, really cool.
Yeah, agreed. You got some more decent tracks towards the end. You have Taste of You with Rezz and Dove Cameron, which I thought is pretty good. You have Vortex with Peekaboo, which I really like that one, especially towards the end, because it reminds me of some old Scream demos that I listened to a long time ago, but more of like your old school UK dubstep, which is how dubstep originated. We need to do a bonus episode of Sean's dubstep history, by the way. I would love to do that one day, because like people don't understand what dubstep actually was like before it got mainstream in the US and got stuck by screwdrivers and blonde-haired dudes named Sonny. Anyways, Vortex. I really liked Vortex. I love time that she did a track with Eddie. Eddie's one that we have talked about a few times on the podcast, and it did not disappoint. I absolutely love this track. Fun. It's slowly builds in the middle. It just hits, and I'm like, this is some solid, good traditional EDM, but it still has like enough of a twist on it to sound a little bit modern in the way it's done. Really like it. Did not disappoint.
Yeah, I think that track is classic Rezz and classic Eddie. It's a good mix of both of them. I want to say they've done a collaboration, one or two before,
I believe so.
This is a good one. It's another one I have to list.
This is the first thing I've heard with Eddie for a while now, though. He did like a couple singles this year. Before that, it was just the one record. So I'm excited to hear from Eddie. Should hopefully do this year.
Yeah, and Stress, the other Rezz song with Eddie was from 2019. So it has definitely been a minute. Overall, great track. Great record, though. Again, like if the EDM constraints notwithstanding, I think Rezz continually is pushing her sound forward, and hopefully other EDM artists can start to take some cues through this, because I think we may be long overdue for like a state of EDM episode, even like a deeper dive into that genre, let's say. Because
I would like to do that, where we could go into like our favorite stuff, because we can't talk about so much of it because it's all DJ mixes and other things of like underground events that we go to, or other things that you can hear and get different sounds and different mixing, which I would like to talk about as well.
Yeah, noted to do in the future. Arbitrary scale, stadium names. I'm going to go ahead and give this Smoothie King.
You're going to give this a Smoothie King? All right. I'm going to give this a Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. Home of the Detroit Red Wings. Brand new stadium. Who do you get as your main sponsor? Little Caesars. Pizza. It's fucking awful.
Pizza.
The worst pizza, worst cardboard box thing you'll ever have in your entire life, ever.
Yeah, if you get melted cheese on the cardboard of the Little Caesars pizza, that cardboard's better than the pizza itself. Once you get the cheese on there.
So bad.